Hello, everybody. This is Lindsay Bowen with LDS Women Thriving, and I am here with a wonderful guest, Briana, and I'm going to introduce her to all of you. On a bright, sunny Sunday afternoon, Brianna Walker was driving on the freeway when she fainted at the wheel, hitting a cement median at 75 miles per hour. A young, aspiring dancer, just 23 years old at the time of her accident, Brianna was determined to reinvent an amazing life in spite of her new and challenging circumstances. 1 year after her accident, Brianna became the first female ever to be featured on the cover of Mobility Management magazine. Shortly thereafter, Brianna became the crypto girl for Colors wheelchairs. Her images have now been used globally on buses and billboards to change the face of disability. After meeting another Colors model and pioneer in the hip hop world, Brianna learned to transform her wheelchair into a dance prop, and together they created one of the first ever wheelchair hip hop dance teams to take the national spotlight, doing a routine with music sensation Ludacris. In 2007, Brianna became the new spokesperson for Overstock.com. Her television commercials and print ads have been seen around the world. In 2014, she graduated magna cum laude from California State University, San Marcos, with a Bachelor of Arts in Criminology and Justice Studies. In that same year, Brianna married and now embraces the life of an unconventional homemaker for her husband Mark and daughters Caitlin and Hartley. Brianna wrote her first book, Dance Anyway, to help others overcome life's obstacles. She's continually working on a second book about humorous anecdotes when faced with adversity. Some of her humorous stories can be found on her blog High Heels and Wheelchair Wheels. Brianna speaks to people all over the world, all over the country, sharing her contagious and inspiring courage with thousands, teaching everyone the principle no matter what life throws at you, you can choose to dance anyway. Oh, I just love it. I just love any story that is a rise from the ashes kind of story and overcoming despite the odds. So now at this time, I'm going to invite Brianna just to share from the beginning, in her own words, her story.
Oh, thanks, Lindsay. So, as mentioned back in 2002, in August of 2002, I was on my way to church and I was in the young single adult ward at the time. And I was actually going to go to a different ward that morning because a friend of mine that had been struggling and was interested in returning back to church, he didn't know anyone in this other singles ward that I had previously been in. And I had mentioned, oh, I used to be in that ward and I know the bishop and I know lots of people. I'll meet you there
Mm-hmm.
and introduce you to some people and get you acclimated and hopefully help you feel welcome. And unfortunately, I never made it that day. I had three jobs at the time, and I was going to school. And so I was just wearing my mind and my body out, just trying to do as much as I can in my young single life. And I'd worked very, very late, and then I got up early to go to church. And my body was even telling me, like, slow down, don't get in the car. And I didn't listen. And I got in the car, and unfortunately, I'd never made it to church that day. What started out as just a merge onto a toll road, because I thought, oh, if I take the toll road, I'll get there faster. And that's the last thing I remember is seeing the sign for the toll road. And then I'm waking up in my car on the side of the road. And the first thing I can make out is the roof lining of my car because my chair had broken on impact. So what I was told had happened is I was in the right hand lane and I made a complete left turn into this center divider at 75 miles an hour, hitting it head on. My head hit the driver's side window and shattered it. And then I did 360s all the way back across the busy freeway, miraculously not hitting any other cars. And then I
Wow.
crashed into a ditch off the side of the road. And my every time I would open my eyes, I don't know how long they had been closed. And then I would close them again and then I'd open it. But I have no sense of time to know, am I blinking or am I going in and out of I didn't
Yeah.
know. And one of the times that I opened my eyes, there was a gentleman there, and he said, "My name is Guy, and I'm going to stay with you until help arrives." And I was very calm. I didn't feel any pain. And I remember closing my eyes again and then waking up, and there's a patrol officer there. And he said, "I got to get her out of here." And Guy said, "You're not going to touch her." And, and then my eyes close again. And then when I wake up or I open my eyes again, the paramedics are there and they're making this big fuss, what they need to do to get me out, how I was pinned underneath the steering wheel. And because I wasn't wearing my seatbelt.
Oh
And I'd one of those outfits on. I'm like, I don't want
man.
to wrinkle it. And
Oh man.
that was, yeah. And so I was pinned underneath the steering wheel in such a way, and they knew I had a head injury because I was bleeding profusely from the left side of my head. And so they thought they needed to stabilize the neck. They put a neck brace on me, and they thought the best way to get me out was to bend my body everywhere that it naturally bends, like my hips and my knees. Well, they didn't know the severity of my injury. And when they sat me up, my back buckled, my
Oh no.
vertebrae broke.
Do you remember this
And
part?
oh yeah, oh
Oh
yeah. It was the worst physical
gosh.
pain I've ever experienced in my life.
Ah.
And when my back buckled, my vertebrae kind of slammed into my rib cage and broke the ribs on my right hand side. And the pain
Oh
was
my
so severe
gosh.
that I passed out. And when I woke up again, I was in the emergency room, and the nurse is worried about how to get my clothes off so that they can do an x-ray, and worrying about my outfit because my medical emergency is now a fashion emergency. And I said, "No,
No.
preserve the skirt. Like, don't cut the skirt off my
That's
body.
all that matters.
And right now, that's all that matters. I'll never find this skirt again for the quality and price." And she, wanting to help me out, she rolled me over, and not knowing that my back was in two pieces, it was like a cartoon character just twisting my body
Oh
and
gosh.
in different directions. And I probably said a few choice words that I won't
Yeah.
say on your podcast, and just begged them to basically, hack it off with a chainsaw. I don't care. Like, where's that
Yeah.
morphine drip? Like, whatever it takes. And as they were administering some very needed drugs at that time,
Yeah.
the doctor came over and he said, "Well, what seems to be the matter with you? You just look like an angel laying on my table right now." And I smiled through my tears. And then the nurse said, "Who would you like us to call?" And my mind raced back to when I was 3 years old, and I was in my grandparents' backyard, my brother and we were unsupervised throwing a beach ball across the pool. And the wind blew the ball into the pool, and I reached in for it and I fell in. And my 3-year-old brother runs around the side of the pool, and he's just about to reach in and grab me by the arms when he stopped because he heard this voice say, "Don't grab her by her arms. She'll pull you in and you'll both drown. And grab her by her hair, pull her out, and you'll save her life." And so we did. At 3 years old, he followed that still small voice, grabbed me by my long blonde hair that was trickling to the top, and pulled my soaking wet body out of the pool and saved my life.
Oh wow.
And this is my very first childhood memory, not because I almost drowned, but because my mother's reaction. And in my wailing cries, my mother and grandmother run outside and see us both soaking wet. And my brother, I'm screaming, I drowned. And Robert pulled my hair. And she looks at my brother and asks, "Why did you do that?" And he said, "Well, the small voice told me to." And
Oh.
so she was so touched by his innocence, but then so flustered by the situation and the severity of what could have possibly happened. She focused all of her emotion in my direction, and she got down in my face and shook me by my shoulders and put her finger in my face, and she said, "Briana, I don't know whether to hug you or spank you, so I'm going to do both." And she did. She hugged me hard, and then she spanked me hard on the behind. And I knew that was going to stay with me forever, that in any moment that I might find myself in some sort of predicament, that not only will it worry my mother, but it also may make her very upset. And so here, as they're asking me, "Who would you like us to call?" Of course, I have the need for my mother in that moment. But I was also scared I was going to get in trouble. And here I
Yeah.
was, 23 years old, like, don't call my mom. I'm going to get grounded. And, but I couldn't hold back that need that I had for my mother. And I said, call my mom. And my mom and aunt and uncle rushed down to the hospital. And before they would allow them to see me, the doctor ushered them into a room and he said, I need to prepare you that your daughter is not going to walk out of this hospital and she's never going to walk again. And it was my mom's turn to buckle. She fell straight to her knees and my whole life flashed before her eyes. How vivacious I was and full of life and how I had all these goals. And she feared that now I would never be able to accomplish them.
Yeah.
I have a nickname in my family. I'm the fourth of five kids, but I'm the baby girl. And they called me Little Sparkle.
Oh,
And my parents were so fearful that this new circumstance in my life was going to make my sparkle fade out because we didn't know anybody in this situation. We had nobody to turn to.
yeah.
And so we really just had to rely on faith and to get us through. And as my dad says, he was so ashamed that he would ever think for a moment that this would make my sparkle fade out because he saw what I did with my life. And as he says, I made it brighter than it's ever been.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So that was that day. And there were other things that I received a blessing that night, um, that I feel was so profound that really stayed with me. And even to this day, it's so vivid. I can remember it very well. So it's actually one of the spiritual experiences that I share in my book. And this is from what I remember. And it was the night of the accident. And my family had congregated into the ICU room. And my mother asked my uncle to give me a priesthood blessing. And he felt so nervous and yet so honored at the same time that she would ask him because my dad was in Washington at the time and trying so hard to make his way back. And she said, I need you to give her a blessing of healing right now. And that made him even more nervous because he's like, my mom's name is Ruth. And he said, Ruth, I can only say what the Lord wants me to say. But I promise you, if at any moment I get that prompting to heal your daughter, you better believe I'm going to do it. And so my mom was waiting for that miracle. And he started the blessing off with Briana, my name, and then his authority statement to administer this blessing. And he said, Briana, at this moment, at this exact moment, the Spirit of Jesus Christ will fill your body and you will feel no pain. You will feel his peace and comfort and know that he will never leave you. You will have the strength and courage to endure every challenge you're about to face if you will only look to him. And I remember this feeling that came over me. It was like that instant spiritual high that you do not want to come down from.
Yes.
And this peace and understanding washed over me. I knew that all will be well and this will be for my good. And apparently that's all I needed to hear because from what I'm told, I just fell asleep right in the middle of the blessing. Like I was done. I checked out. I was asleep. I didn't hear the rest, but that promise was all that I needed to hear. And I'm so grateful for that because I feel like it has carried me throughout this experience.
And I can see you remember, I mean, you remember the words even.
Oh yeah, like it was something that was, like I said, so significant, so profound that I made sure that I wrote it down and I even confirmed to my uncle, this is what you said, right? Because I want this promise to be right. And he
Yes.
said, that's what I remember. And I asked my sisters and my mom, and yeah, that's what I heard too. And of course, my mom was waiting for that healing to be mentioned, but that never came. But I think it came in other ways, that healing.
Wow. And what did that journey over the next few years look like for you?
Well, it was difficult very much in the beginning, and I I learned that first and foremost, God has a sense of humor.
Yes.
At, at the time of my accident, my last name was Walker, and
Okay.
as
That
most people
clicked.
can figure out, that Walker is defined as like someone who walks,
Yes.
and maybe for exercise or even enjoyment. And nope, not anymore. But I'll say what through all the struggles that I did experience, there was something that I learned the most is that I don't need the use of my legs to fulfill my divine potential or purpose in this earthly life. And I know there are people that have had miracles of healing take place. And I truly believe that in order for this person to reach their divine potential, God needs them in a certain working order to fulfill that purpose. Would you agree? Like, do you ever see those miracles happen and you're like, wait, why didn't so and so get that miracle? Or why didn't I get that
Yes.
miracle? And I truly believe there's a reason God needs certain people in certain working orders to fulfill their divine potential here on this earth.
Yeah.
And I've learned that I don't need the use of my legs to do that. That God has confidence in me that although I may be physically broken, I can still do all he needs from me.
I
And if
love
he has
that.
that much confidence in me, I can have that much confidence in myself.
That's beautiful. It reminds me of how I heard this in a lesson one time that when Jesus was on the earth, when he was in Jerusalem, he healed many, but he also didn't heal everyone.
Yeah.
And you ask, why didn't he just heal everybody?
Hmm.
But exactly, everybody's life mission is unique to them. And
Yeah.
the good thing that we can all know and have faith in is that healing 100% will come one day.
Yes. Yes. And I look forward to that. I even told us my husband, because he's been losing his hair. And when he reads that scripture that every hair on your head will be restored, he's like, whoa, it's
He's like,
written. It is
I
written.
love it. It's like, you'll have your legs, I'll have my hair. We'll be good.
Yep. We are going to look fantastic.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. But even speaking of that confidence, it just struck a memory of, I remember because I was late to the in getting married.
Yes.
And my mom, both my sisters got married in their early 20s. And here I was in my early 30s. And my mom was like, do you think it's ever going to happen for you? And I would always, I would watch a lot of my friends get married,
Yes.
and you would see and hear the stories of what goes on in their marriage. And I heard this quote that I began to chuckle and just keep in mind that this single life I've come to know, well, it seems to be my lot. I can't think of all the husbands whose wife I'm glad I'm not. And so I would always just keep saying that, like, it's okay that you're single, just be grateful you're not their wife, or
Yes.
you're not married to that person. But in this conversation with my mom, and she's asked, well, what does your patriarchal blessing say about marriage? And so I said, oh, it's just one short little sentence. And so I told her the sentence, and she looked so disappointed and even shared that disappointment. And she's like, doesn't that frustrate you? And I said, no, that's just God showing his confidence in me, that he
I love
knows
that.
I'll I'll know what to do. And that is, I'll look to the Lord, just like my uncle said in my blessing, and I'll have faith and move forward. And
I love
so
that.
goes the same for all trials in my life. And eventually it did happen. And interceding left on my mother's deathbed, how's this for putting something on my shoulders before your mom dies? She's like, I can't die in peace, not knowing what's going to happen to you. And I'm like, hey, thanks. Enjoy heaven.
You're like, I'll see you
Thanks for leaving. Thanks for leaving that on my shoulders that you can't die in peace because of my love life or lack thereof. And she
there.
said, when I go to heaven, I'm going to find the ancestors of your spouse and we're going to make it happen. I was like, I think you'll have better things to do than be flying around heaven trying to find the ancestors of my spouse. And knowing my mom, she probably grabbed a clipboard and a whistle and
It's
got
like,
to
ready,
work.
set, go.
Yeah. Like, let's make this happen, people. And what's interesting is my husband, so that she died December 8th, 2012. And my husband was supposed to get married December 12th, 2012. And he called off the wedding.
Whoa.
And 2 months to the day of my mom's death, he and I met.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That's
we
crazy.
laugh and yeah, sure enough, my mom got to work. I'm sure she found your grandfather and
She
pulling all
sounds
these
like
strings, little puppet masters from heaven to make it happen here on earth.
she sounds like a great lady.
She was. She was. And actually, I'll share this. After she died, I really struggled
Yeah.
with a part of my testimony for having a faith in the spirit world because this was a woman who put smother and mother together. She put those two words together and she was in a part of every facet of our life at every like just always needed to be involved. And now
Yes.
here she's gone. And well, where are you? If the spirit world is around us, why don't I feel you? Why don't I hear you? Why don't I get a sign or anything that you're still around? And I struggled with that for a long time. I went and saw a counselor. I spoke to my bishop. I did a lot of soul searching, praying, scripture studying. And I finally got to a point that I I just had to have the faith.
Yeah.
I just had to have the faith. And I still remember the day that I felt her, that it was so real, that there was no denying that she was there. But she knew that she needed to be there only at certain moments to remind me that she's there and she loves me and she's looking out for me. She doesn't need to be there all the time because I'm sure, like I said, she grabbed a clipboard and a whistle. There's work to be done. She's busy doing other work. She's
A
like, I've
mom with
raised
a
you guys
mission.
long enough. Yeah, I've raised you guys long enough. You should know what you're supposed to be doing, but I'll be there when you most need me. And in
Oh,
that moment, I did. And I felt her. And it was such a testimony builder for me that, yes, the spirit world is real. And yes, they're still around us.
what a beautiful reunion that's going to be for you with her.
She better be there.
Of course she will. It sounds like
She
smother and
she
mother.
better be
She'll
there.
be there.
I don't want to hear, oh, sorry, I got caught up. I was talking to so and so, or oh, I just need to finish
No,
this up before I came.
I think she'll be in the front, very front.
Yeah. Well, I talked to my daughter a lot about that. It's not fair that she got to have all this extra time with you that I didn't get to have. And maybe that's why
Oh,
I I didn't get married until later because she wanted to have that little extra time with my daughter.
I actually think that's beautiful. In your experiences, all of this, the ups and downs of it all, what did you learn about God and Jesus Christ?
Um, well, like I shared earlier, God has a sense of humor, and he, with my name, but there's so much in the details of our life, and things don't happen by accident. And even through the process, because things were hard,
Yeah,
and I so badly wanted my independence back. And I worked so hard to get it after I graduated high school to then just find myself a few years later forced into dependency
yeah,
all over again, relying on others. And working so hard and fighting so hard for that independence. But in the process of all that fighting, I prevented people from having the opportunity to serve and to do as Christ not only did, but what he taught us all to do.
Yeah.
And I had to learn to accept that help with grace and to recognize, to be a witness, to like recognize that the Lord is working through them and that I need to be doing the same. I need to be that tool and that instrument in the Lord's hands to help others and to serve others. And I learned that by how I watch people serve me. And it took a long time for me to get comfortable letting people help me. And when I did, I just think, why did I prevent this? Why did I
Yeah.
prolong this opportunity? And so now I try not to ever miss an opportunity or someone to serve me or my family. I have to swallow that pride and just
Yes.
let them have that opportunity. And as I say, get that extra credit in heaven.
I love that.
You know, we all need that extra credit.
And it
But
and I was gonna
oh,
say
go ahead.
it engenders such love between two people when there's such vulnerability and people serve one another. It's just there's something really beautiful. I feel like that happens between spirits.
Yeah. And you become almost like kindred spirits, even for just a moment, that you were doing the Lord's work in that moment, that the Lord is aware of you and he recognizes you and your needs. And I sent this person to do that for you. And I think we all need to remember that the Lord uses us to do his work. Don't get in the way of the work because you're too busy and not paying attention.
Which is easy to do, I feel like, in this day and age. It's easy to busy
Oh, yeah.
yourself into literally shoving away the Lord and his mission for you, really.
Yes. We get too distracted. And I'm guilty of it myself because even when I'm cleaning the house and I'll put a show on or put some music on just to feel the silence. And I thought, why am I doing that in those moments? This is when the Lord is going to come to me in these quiet moments. Because I read this story one time where you'll read in the scriptures how often the men had to go up to the mountain.
Hmm.
You never hear of the women going up to the mountain because the women were always working and always getting stuff done, and how the Lord came to them where they were and met them where they were at. And so here I am, cleaning my house or sewing something or whatever. And these are the moments where the Lord's going to come to me. And I need to be open and ready to receive that revelation and to not fill it up with distraction because, oh, I got a moment to watch a show or I got a moment to listen, no offense, to listen to this podcast
Yes.
or anything, like to just have my heart and my mind open to just receive that revelation, to not fill it up with distractions of the world because the Lord comes to the women. The men got to go to the mountain. The Lord's going to come to the women.
I love that. And I love your comment about just needing to be still. And silence is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's an opportunity to listen to the Lord.
Yeah, maybe there is something where they say the difference between men and women, how women are always thinking. Well, yeah, because we're trying to receive those messages. We're always thinking things through and wanting to be in touch, that mother's intuition, so that we can do what the Lord needs us to do.
It's
And
beautiful.
I hope I can continue to do that and be an example for my daughter, because even kids today, they always need something to entertain them. I'm like, just be still.
Yeah.
Just work through that boredom. Let your mind wander. You remember those road trips as kids? We didn't have all the fancy little gadgets that kids have today. We were just look out the window, do some, what is it called, where you look for things in the clouds, and yeah,
Yes. Daydream.
you daydream and your mind wanders, and thoughts and insights and impressions and revelations can come to you in those moments. So
I
bask in
agree.
that boredom.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I feel like as well, it's I don't know, an opportunity to be with yourself too. It's and enjoy you time.
Hmm.
What do you feel like were the most difficult adjustments in your life and expectation changes you had to make?
I think accepting this new life, because I would see so many people striving to walk again, and how it consumed them and their thoughts, and that was all their focus. And I had to accept that, this is going to be my life, and I want to make something of it and use it for good, and not look to, oh, I need to fix it. No, I want to use it. And so that was an adjustment, a big adjustment in the beginning, because we always want to fix things.
Mm-hmm.
And I I needed to accept, you're not going to fix this. Use it. And so when I figured that out, things got a lot easier. And even my dreams changed. Where in my dreams I was still running and dancing and skipping or whatever. And then when my dreams changed to now I see myself in a wheelchair, then that helped with the acceptance process. Like, okay, this really is what my life is going to be. Let's hit the ground, ironically running. Um, but don't sit here and waste time on trying to fix something when there's a life out there to live and good to be done. Um, so that was probably the biggest adjustment. And once I did that, my expectation changed because I recognized opportunities that I didn't see before, and how I started to realize I could dance again. Because in the hospital or in the rehabilitation center, they were telling me all these things that I would never do again. And I'm just thinking, wow, that's a big downer. You keep
Yeah.
focusing on all the things I can't do. When are we going to start talking about the things that I can do? And they didn't really. And you find a new sense of normal
Mm-hmm.
because life's no longer normal. And I once I started focusing on the things that I could still do, I worked hard at being able to do them, like dancing. And probably my parents would say that I did everything dangerous because I kept thinking, well, what more damage could I do to my body that I haven't
Yeah.
already done? I'll go jump out of the plane. I'll go bungee jumping. I'll, race on these pilot little 4x4 machines, and I'll do
Nice.
all these things. And my parents are like, what are you doing? Like, haven't you done enough? And in my mind, I'm thinking I was invincible now. Like, what more can I do? I've already done it. And that gave me I don't want to say bravery and courage because you don't go looking for danger,
Yeah.
but it gave me the confidence that, hey, I can make my body work for me and I can still
You can
live my
still
life.
live.
And yes, I can still do these things. And so when that came with dancing and how that opened up more doors, and then my sister for their, I forget what the young women event was, but it was something at the beginning of the year where all the women come together. I don't know if it was not Young Women in Excellence, but something along those lines, or like I don't know what it was called, but the speaker that she had set up had to cancel like 2 days beforehand. And so she called me and said, hey, do you think you can put a talk together and come speak to our young women? And I thought, oh, okay. She told me the theme, and I said, oh, okay, I can work with that. That applies to my life. And I came and I shared my experience and some spiritual anecdotes, I guess. And someone in the audience was a principal of a high school, and she said, I was so touched by your message. Will you come speak to my high schoolers? And so I came and spoke to the high schoolers, and then somebody was there that was part of like the school district and asked me to go speak here. And so I was like, what's happening? And like all these doors started to open and meeting all these people. And then because of that, I'd say notoriety, where I was becoming
Mm-hmm.
known on the speaking circuit, then that got the attention of Overstock.com and just all these things that I probably never would have experienced had this not happened to me. And
Wow.
I'm grateful for those doors to open and that I was willing to go through them. And my let me see if I can find it. I spoke in a um, state conference a few years back, and there was a general authority there. And after I spoke, he came over, and this is what I find amazing about general authorities is that they can get up and they're like the vessel. They don't have any papers, they don't have anything, and they can just get up and give this amazing talk. And so I was the only speaker that day with the general authority because they were switching out the state presidency. And so they were having all these testimonies.
Mm-hmm.
And so he spoke right after me. And he must have just wrote down a few things of what I said. And then he turned that into a talk. He said, "Oh, my last name now is Tavano." And he said, Sister Tavano said this. And there's nothing written down in front of him. He has no papers. And he's just like, "Sister Tavano said this, and let's explore that further." And he just kept going and going. I was like, they're like the vessel. How do they do that?
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, I was like,
It's
"Oh,
like the
that's a
Lord just
skill I do
pours
not have."
words into them, right?
Yeah, they're just like the vessel, and it's all just moving right through them. And afterwards, he came up to speak to me, and I'm trying to find the talk. And he said something. I'm like, I have to remember what he just said to me. I want to make sure that I never forget this.
Let's hear
And
it.
looking for where did it go? Okay, I found it. Okay. Because I wrote it at the bottom of my talk. So I will always remember what he said to me. And he said, "I can tell from hearing your words that you have earned your testimony from some very powerful experiences. And that tells me that you know the Lord on a very intimate level. You guys must be on a first name basis. I'm sure you've met him more than once in your life. It was revealed to me while you were speaking that you are a selected spirit, a spirit that was willing to face some heavy stuff for the sake of others. You were sent to earth during these times for a specific purpose, and there was a promise given to you before you came to earth for accepting the call to go through these experiences. The promise was that not only will these experiences be for your good and spiritual development, but that by sharing your testimony of Christ and how he is your source to get through every circumstance, that you will inspire not just thousands on this earth to turn their heart to Christ, but it will be in the hundreds of thousands that will be touched and blessed by your testimony. And I am grateful to say that I am one of those people." And I was like,
Oh,
"Oh,
that's
oh
beautiful.
my goodness." Yeah, it was it was a it was a great thing to hear. And because there's a lot of times that we're like, when something bad happens to us and we question, like, why did this happen? Like, what was the purpose of this? And
Yeah.
I feel like I it's been revealed to me my purpose. Like, this is why this happened to me, because God is using me to share his message and to share the gospel through my experiences. And I take advantage of every moment. Anytime I'm even asked to speak at a school and I'm not really allowed to mention God, I sneak in my face somehow. And it's interesting because people will come up to me and they'll ask me, "Are you a Christian woman?" Or they'll even straight up ask, "Are you a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?" And I said, "Yes." "How did you know?" Like, I just felt it. I felt it in your speaking. I just knew. And so even when I'm speaking at just a high school where I'm not allowed to say certain things,
Yes.
my spirit is still getting them in the heart and
I
they're
love
being
that.
uplifted. And so I was like, all right, so this is why. Because sometimes we go through life, why did this happen to me? And never knowing. And I feel like this is why I don't need the use of my legs. I still have my big mouth.
I love it. I was gonna say something I really enjoy about you, Brianna, is your attitude. And you have a vigorous and energetic spirit about you that's
Oh,
contagious.
oh, thank you.
Yes, and even sharing what you've been through, anyone that would listen would be like, wow, I don't know what I would be able to, if I could handle that kind of situation. And I'm sure that there were moments where you broke down and you were in pain and struggling, and yet the joy and the enthusiasm and the spirit that just exudes from you, I can honestly see why you passed through this valley of the shadow of death, just to be able to come out the other side shining, just like your dad said, your sparkle.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. No, it's inspiring. And for anybody listening right now that's going through anything really hard, I mean, this is an example of, looking to the Lord and allowing him to fill you with light despite the darkness around you.
Agreed.
Is there any other spiritual experiences that you would like to share?
One just came to mind. It was probably about a year post from my accident. And I was in the young single adult ward, and our ward had baptisms for the dead scheduled at the temple. And this was going to be my first time back in the temple since my accident. And oh, I was so looking forward to it, just to be
Yeah.
back in the temple. I wasn't endowed yet, but I was so looking forward just to go do baptisms.
Hmm.
And the day arrives, and I'm so excited. And it was like the adversary got to work and found every way to change my focus from the temple. And it was a very, very rough day, physically, emotionally, mentally. And I was done. Like, I was checking out. I'm punching in. I'm done. The kind of done of like, I'm climbing into bed, I'm throwing the covers over my face, and I'm going to cry myself to sleep. And it's only 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, I'm done. And just hoping for a better day tomorrow. Cause that's what my mom would always say. Like,
Yes.
tomorrow, tomorrow's always, you can always make tomorrow better. Like, just go to sleep and tomorrow's going to be a new day. So I'm like, just going to take my mom's advice. I'm just going to pull the covers over my head. Tomorrow will come. It'll be better. And since I couldn't drive yet, I didn't have a car yet because my car was totaled in the accident. My
Hmm.
good friend had planned on picking me up to go on the long drive in rush hour traffic all the way to the temple. And so I had called her before I, climbed into bed and threw the covers over my head and left her a message because she didn't answer, just crying, like, I'm just not gonna make it. It's just not a good day. I just can't. Like, I'm done. I'm going to bed. Good night. I'm done. Well, she never got that message. And she showed up at my house and she found me just completely broken. No motivation to do anything. And through my tears, I'm just crying and just, ugh. And as she's listening to me cry, she just starts getting me dressed. She gets me dressed for the temple. She packs my bag. She picked me up and put me in my wheelchair. She wheeled me out the front door. She picked me up, put me in her car. And so looking back, like the spirit must have known that I needed to be at the temple that night. And
Hmm.
it was communicating that to her spirit, like, you get her to the temple. And the whole way to the temple, I sulked. And then I felt guilty that I was sulking for not being in the right mindset for going to the temple. I was like this, like I'm beating myself up, like, oh, woe is me. No, now I feel guilty for woe is me. And I'm just like, no. And I thought, there's no way any spirits want me to be their vessel when I'm like this. Like, nobody wants, they're not like, yes, I want that girl to be my vessel. Nope. And my friend offered a beautiful prayer before we got out of the car at the temple, like one last ditch effort. Like, we're going to turn this around. One last ditch effort to turn this around for you. And by the time I reached the temple doors, I had changed my focus. I I just started to focus on the Savior. And we changed into our baptismal clothes, and I waited my turn in the seating area by the font, and feeling so grateful to be there. And then my time came, and I was so excited, like, this is it. And my bishop escorted me toward the font, tears streaming down my face, thinking to myself, you made it. You're here. It's happening. It was all worth it just to be in the temple right now. and just saying a quick prayer of gratitude in my heart for my friend being so determined to make sure that this happened. And my bishop, he scooped me up in his arms out of my wheelchair. And then all of a sudden, a temple worker rushed over and intervened, saying that I couldn't enter the font. And it was like a record scratching because here I was just like, it's happening, it's happening. You're like, it's not happening. Like, what? And so we both got whiplash, like turning to the temple worker in shock and confusion. And a conversation ensued between the temple worker and my bishop. The temple president ends up being called down to the baptistry. And I sat off the side of the baptistry like a child listening to the adults talk, like just waiting. The adults are talking. You just sit there and be quiet.
Yes.
And I can hear bits and pieces of my bishop saying things like, "You have no idea what this girl has been through. She's been waiting for this day for so long. The liability's on me, not the church. I'll take full responsibility for it all."
Yes.
Like he's pleading his case, like, "Come on, just let this happen." And I don't know what agreement they came to, but there was some sort of to get me to allow me to go into the font. But one of the factors was I had to have 3 priesthood holders in the font with me to make sure the baptisms were done properly without disruption, and most importantly, done safely.
Yeah.
And the 3 men that were in the font with me was my really good friend Johnny, and he had already been in the font for so long because he was waiting for me. They kept saying, "Okay, Johnny, come out." He's like, "No, no, no, I'm waiting for Briana. I'm waiting for Briana." And so he was like, he's probably a prune at this point. He's been in there so long waiting for me. I'm waiting for her. I'm waiting for her. So it was Johnny and my bishop, and then our elders quorum president, Frank. And um, Frank was so the bishop goes into the font waiting for me, and Frank bends down to pick me up. And the temple president taps him on the shoulder, and he said, "I'm sorry, brother, you can't be a part of the ordinance." We're like, "You've got to be kidding me."
Yeah.
And he said, "Why?" And he said, "Because of your goatee." He had facial hair.
What the heck? That doesn't make any
And,
sense.
but we found out that that was a thing,
Okay.
that at the time, like, you couldn't have facial hair and like, do the ordinance. And Frank, he has had this goatee for years, and he took very good care of it. And so I'm like, okay, Frank's going to ask somebody else. And while Frank is holding me in his arms, he calmly asked the temple president, "Can you get me a razor?" And he placed me back in my wheelchair. And I said, "Frank, no, don't do it." And he said, "Briana, I am not going to let anything stop me from being in the font with you. I'll be right back." And I sat outside the locker room off the side of the font, waiting for the clean shaven Frank to make his appearance. And he makes his grand entrance. He scooped me up, and we entered the font. And here I was, surrounded by these incredible, humble men that made sure this happened. They made sacrifices to make sure this happened. I did like 10 names, and it seems to go by so fast. But Johnny, my bishop, and Frank and I, we just stayed in the font when my 10 names were done, just surrounded by peaceful silence. And we all hugged each other and cried. And my bishop
Oh.
picked me up. And as he walked up the steps out of the font, we saw the baptistry was flooded with people that were not there before, just standing there, silent, watching, crying. And I whispered to my bishop, "Where did all those people come from all of a sudden?" And he kind of laughed and said, "Heaven." And like we both just smiled. And later, when I came out of the locker room, I saw my bishop speaking to the temple president. But it wasn't until that Sunday that I learned what was said in the conversation. And the temple president apologized and expressed how embarrassed he felt for almost preventing that from happening. And my bishop thought he was referring to me being able to do baptisms.
Hmm.
And the president said, "Not just that, but it was rather witnessing of angels that were present in the baptistry, as though they had been waiting for such a time as this." And it was one of the most powerful moments he had ever experienced in that temple.
Oh.
And I think as often as I've done temple work for those that have passed on, I always hope they accept this true gospel. But this experience has taught me how important temple work is to these spirits. And they're
Yeah.
waiting for someone willing to do something on their behalf that they cannot do for themselves. And I get that. Being paralyzed comes with physical limitations. So I understand what that's like. Waiting for
Yeah.
someone to do something for me that I physically cannot do for myself.
Wow.
Um,
What a
I
oh,
believe those angels were present that night and they did accept the gospel and their savior, Jesus Christ. So I encourage all your listeners, get to the temple, go be that vessel. Go be the vessel.
oh my gosh, I love that. That's oh, what a beautiful story. What a beautiful experience. Ugh,
It
I just
was.
love that.
I'm so glad that my friend was like, and just gets me dressed, packs my
He's
bag, and just,
like,
oh,
"You're
keep
gonna have a
talking.
beautiful experience
Okay.
tonight. You
Yeah.
need to be ready for
We're doing this. Can't stop it. We're going.
it."
Yeah.
All right. What advice would you have for someone that's just starting a similar journey that you have gone through?
Well, everyone's experience is going to be different because you have, those that are paraplegics and those that are quadriplegics, and that is a world of difference because
Yeah.
one is 2 limbs, one is 4 limbs, so world of difference. But there are things that can still be the same. So every single day you'll face challenges and difficulties, and there will be many tears. And truth be told, sometimes screams. Some days will definitely be harder than others. For me, I didn't want this trial then. And if I'm being totally honest, there are days I don't want it now,
Yes.
but I keep moving forward. Sometimes it is upright with confidence, and other times I find myself crawling and clawing my way through some dark tunnels. I may not be able to change my circumstances in that moment, but I am able to change my line of sight. And I look to the light of Christ. I look to the Savior, just like my uncle told me to do in that priesthood blessing the night of my car accident. And when we focus on more light, Christ's light, and less tunnel, there is no place too dark or too deep that the light of Christ cannot break through if we will only look to Him. And like I said, no two trials are the same for people, but the way through them is the same. Just look to Christ, and you're going to find your way through it. It may not be easy, but you're going to get there. And I love the words that our late prophet Russell M. Nelson said. How's it go? The joy we feel has little. The joy we feel has little to do with the circumstances of our lives, and everything to do with the focus of our lives. And we can all still feel joy through the progression because of the atonement of Jesus Christ. Joy is possible because of Jesus Christ, even through those hardest times. And so that would be my advice, is to focus on more light and less tunnel that surrounds you in those difficult times.
Thank you, Brianna. Thank you for sharing your story and just in general, this has been wonderful.
Mm.
We're gonna finish with I just want to hear your testimony. I know you've been sharing about Jesus Christ and your experiences with him, but your testimony of Jesus Christ.
Well, just like that general authority said, sounds like you've met him more than once in your life. And it's so important that we learn of Christ so that we know him when he shows up in our life. And he'll show up in so many different fashions. It could be through the service of others. It could be from the smile of somebody when you need it. And I think it's so important that we do what we can to learn of him and to emulate his life the best way possible. And we will find joy in doing so We will know him. We will recognize him. We will feel him. And when that day comes and, we pass through, we'll have no problem knowing who we are in front of. And he will know us. And because he was part of so many of the details in our life, that he's going to be there, that mercy and fighting for us because he knows our heart. And I'm so grateful that I have taken advantage of those times of silence and times of study, times in the temple, to learn of him and to follow him and be a disciple for Jesus Christ. And I don't need the use of my legs to do his work here on this earth. And we none of us should let any sort of limitation or disability be the reason to hold us back from doing just that. I hope your listeners will take that to heart.
Amen. Well, thank you everybody for listening in today, and Briana for sharing your story with us. And
Thanks for having me.
you're welcome.
Hopefully you could understand what I was saying through all my
Yes.
tears.
No, it was wonderful. All
You
right.
never know how it comes across in a microphone, because I hear it in testimony meetings when someone starts crying, like, what they say? What they say?
That's good. Everybody, hope you have a wonderful day, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, Lindsay. Bye, everybody.